Hello, my name is Amy, and today I'm going to be showing you the simplest way that I have found to cut long strips for a log cabin style quilt. Now, the materials that you're going to need today is, of course, your fabric, a rotary cutting mat, your new best friend, the rotary cutter, and a slatted board like this one. This one you can see has slits every ½ inch that the rotary cutter will align straight with and allow you to much more easily cut straight lines on your fabric. The first step in what we need to do today is to fold this very, very precisely, as closely as we can. Really, the closer that you get this fold, the easier it will be down the line as you're making your quilt. So we fold and press the seams or iron. So I am going to go and do that. Hello, I am back. I decided to switch fabrics to keep that fabric for another project. So here I have a batik fabric that was left over from a quilt I was working on. Now, the way that I folded this, which is fairly important, was all in one direction. You do not fold it in quarters, or when you cut the fabric, you will end up with pieces that are shorter and pieces that are twice the width of what you are looking for. So as you can see here, I folded it in half this is the single fabric, so I folded it in half and then in half one more time in the same direction, and then press the seam really well to make sure that I didn't lose the position of the fabric while I'm maneuvering it. So you might be able to see here the edges, as much as I tried, did not want to match up on one side as I was ironing. That is okay as long as all of your other sides match up. Sometimes when they're cutting at the fabric store, things get a little off, and that's okay. Most good fabric stores do allow you about 1/4 inch to a ½ inch of extra on just about every yard that they sell to account for their own mistake. So it's okay to cut it off. You're still getting your money's worth. Now, to line this up on the rotary cutting board, you take either one of the seamed edges and line it up with this bottom line right here. I will do that now. If you are trying to square up an edge, you're going to want the edge that is off hanging slightly over one of these markings, just like this. You also, though, want to make sure that when you do this, your bottom edge is carefully aligned with the tick marks along the bottom. Now you take your slitted cutting board and line up one of the clear lines, which are the ones that the rotary cutter fits in, over one of the lines on your rotary cutting board. If you position your fabric correctly, you can also use the diagonal line and align that, and align the black lines on your slitted board with the white lines on this rotary cutting board. So what I do is I line it up just like this. Then I remove the safety on my rotary cutter, put it in the slot, and arch my hand like this to avoid my fingers getting sliced off. You do need to put a fair amount of pressure on the rotary cutting board and the slitted board, otherwise it'll all slide around and you will end up with very crooked pieces. But if you put a fair amount of pressure through the fingertips of your hand and a fair amount of pressure on the rotary cutter, you should be just fine. When you cut, you should hear a little bit of a shh sound and feel it cutting a little bit. There should be a little bit of tension there. So just like this, pushing down rather hard is how you cut. Now, if you know that you want 2-inch width strips, which is what I want today, you can just take this line that you cut out, because you now know that this is a straight edge for the fabric, and go over 2 inches. So 1 inch would be 2 slit markings, and another inch would be another 2, which means that right here is where I want to cut. So I could just run the rotary cutter down there and get a 2-inch fabric. Now, if the fabric that you want to cut does not have a width of exactly in a 1/2 inch increment, that's okay. What I did here was I needed one that fit a 2 3/4 inch increment. So halfway in between, as you can see, the 0 and the 0.5 slit, I placed a piece of tape. Now I lined this piece of tape up when I cut with one of the white lines on the rotary cutting board. And that way I know that whatever piece I have will be the number of slits over in 1/2 inch increments plus the 1/4 inch on the end. If you do this, you can't line it up once and cut multiple times down the slits. Doesn't work that way. You are going to have to pick it up and take out the fabric you already cut. See, as you can see here, I didn't go all the way through. If you don't go all the way through, you can use your rotary cutter. Here I just have a few extra strings to kind of run it through there and take care of it. Now up here where it's more attached, I'm going to actually realign the cutting board. I like this method the best because I feel like it creates the straightest lines overall, and it's going to match up pretty well with what's already been cut. So as you can see, you just reline it up, reinsert the rotary cutter, and put a little bit more pressure behind it, just like that. Now, to cut our strip, I am going to place the rotary cutter, the slitted cutting mat directly over the fabric, which is already lined up with the rotary cutting board. I'm going to cut exactly a 2-inch wide strip, which means that I line this line up with the edge of the fabric and count 4 of these 1/2 inch increments over. 1, 2, 3, 4, right there. I insert the rotary cutting board, double check everything is lined up exactly how you want it to be. It's the worst feeling when you know that you have waited that long and it's crooked. Excuse me, I have a cuckoo clock going off in the background. Anyways, here we are at this slit mark. So I'm just gonna cut this piece of fabric. Sometimes I have to readjust halfway through to keep continuous pressure on the fabric. Just like that, remove the rotary cutting board, and voila, you have a straight 2-inch width piece of fabric. Stay tuned for the next video. Thank you.